Hunter Biden calls the cops on Karoline Leavitt after she exposed Joe Biden on live TV. At exactly 3:47 p.m. on Tuesday, October 15, White House Press Secretary Karoline Leavitt walked onto the set of Fox News Live and detonated a political nuclear bomb that would shake the Biden family to its core. Within 90 minutes, Hunter Biden had called the FBI, the Secret Service, and the Department of Justice demanding her immediate arrest. But what Hunter didn't know was that Karoline had been secretly recording every phone call, every threat, and every desperate attempt to silence her for the past 6 months. The split screen told the entire story in real time. On the left, Karoline sat composed in the Fox News studio, a manila folder thick with documents resting on her lap. Her voice was steady, surgical, deadly calm. On the right, 340 miles away in his Malibu mansion, Hunter Biden hunched over his MacBook Pro, watching the interview live, his hands already trembling before she even opened her mouth. He had no idea what was coming, but his father had warned him. "If she talks, we're finished." And then Karoline spoke the words that would change everything. "I have in my possession bank records proving that President Biden personally received $4.2 million in payments from Chinese energy company CFC through a web of shell companies controlled by Hunter Biden between March 2017 and January 2021. She held up a stack of papers, each page clearly visible to the camera. "These aren't allegations. These are wire transfer receipts with Joe Biden's Social Security number, dated and verified by 3 separate banks." The host's face went white. Even he wasn't prepared for this level of specificity. But Karoline wasn't finished. She opened the folder and pulled out what looked like a printed email. "Furthermore, I have communications showing that Hunter Biden used his father's vice presidential office to arrange these payments, including this email from March 15, 2017, where Hunter writes, and I quote, 'Dad says the deal is approved. Transfer the first installment to the Delaware account we discussed. Make sure it's clean.'" Hunter's laptop screen reflected the horror on his face as he watched his entire world implode in real time. His coffee mug sat forgotten, steam rising like his panic. At 3:52 p.m., exactly 5 minutes into the interview, his phone buzzed with an emergency text from his father, "Stop her now. Whatever it takes." But Karoline wasn't done dropping bombs. She looked directly into the camera, her voice dropping to almost a whisper. "And that's not even the worst part. I also have recordings of Hunter Biden personally threatening federal prosecutors, judges, and witnesses to keep this information buried. Including threats made as recently as last week." She paused, letting that sink in. The American people deserve to know that their president is compromised, and his son is a criminal who thinks he's above the law. Hunter's fingers flew across his phone screen. 3:54 p.m. call to his lawyer. 3:56 p.m. call to White House Chief of Staff. 3:58 p.m. call to FBI Director. Each call the same frantic message: she just committed treason on live television. I want her arrested within the hour. But what Hunter didn't realize was that every single one of those calls was being recorded by the woman he was trying to destroy. The interview continued for another 12 minutes, but Hunter had already stopped watching. He was too busy making calls, sending texts, pulling strings, activating every connection his family had spent decades building. By 4:15 p.m., formal complaints had been filed with the Department of Justice, the FBI, and the Secret Service. By 4:30 p.m., 3 different federal agencies had been contacted with demands for Karoline's immediate investigation. By 5 p.m., Hunter Biden had personally called in favors with 6 different federal prosecutors, all demanding the same thing: make Karoline Leavitt disappear. But here's what Hunter Biden didn't know, and what would ultimately destroy him. Karoline Leavitt had been wearing a wire for 6 months. Every threat, every bribe attempt, every desperate phone call from Hunter trying to intimidate her into silence had been recorded with crystal clear audio. She didn't just have evidence of Joe Biden's corruption. She had evidence of Hunter Biden's systematic obstruction of justice, witness intimidation, and abuse of federal law enforcement. She had turned the tables completely, and Hunter had just walked into the trap. Before we dive into this explosive confrontation that rocked Washington, make sure you're subscribed because stories like this, where truth meets power, don't stay buried for long. Hit that notification bell so you never miss when we expose what the mainstream media won't touch. Because what happened next didn't just end Hunter Biden's freedom. It brought down the entire Biden political dynasty. The Fox News studio had never seen anything like it. Host Brian Kilmeade sat frozen as Karoline methodically laid out document after document on the desk between them. Bank statements from Wells Fargo showing wire transfers of $847,000 on March 23, 2017. Chase Bank records revealing a $1.3 million deposit on June 15, 2017. And then the smoking gun, a Bank of America statement showing a direct transfer of $2.1 million to an account listed under Joseph R. Biden on September 8, 2017. These payments, Karoline said, her voice cutting through the studio silence like a blade, were made while Joe Biden was actively lobbying for favorable trade policies with China as a private citizen, and planning his presidential campaign. She held up a printed email dated October 2017. This communication from Hunter to his Chinese contact reads, "My father is ready to move forward with the arrangement. The campaign will be friendly to Beijing interests. Transfer approved." Kilmeade tried to interrupt. "These are serious allegations." But Karoline cut him off with surgical precision. "Brian, these aren't allegations. This is evidence. Documented, verified, and corroborated by 3 independent sources." She pulled out her phone and showed the screen to the camera. "I'm holding copies of text messages between Hunter Biden and Chinese energy executive Yi Jianming, discussing payment schedules that correspond exactly to these bank transfers." The most damning revelation came next. Karoline opened a blue folder and removed what appeared to be an official government document. This is a classified State Department memo from January 2018, obtained through FOIA request, showing that the FBI was already investigating these payments, but the investigation was mysteriously shut down 3 weeks after Joe Biden announced his presidential campaign. She looked directly into the camera. Someone with serious power made those investigators disappear. And I know who. Within minutes, Twitter exploded. #Bidengate was trending worldwide. The clips were being shared faster than the network could track. But while the internet erupted, in his Malibu mansion, Hunter Biden was already 3 phone calls deep into the most desperate damage control of his life. He had no idea that every word he was speaking was being recorded by the woman he was about to try to destroy. At 4:02 p.m., Hunter Biden's phone rang. His father's voice was ice cold. "Fix this. Now. Or we're both finished." The line went dead. Hunter stared at his laptop screen where Karoline was still talking, still destroying everything they'd built. His hands shook as he dialed the first number. "This is Hunter Biden. I need to speak to Director Wray immediately." His voice cracked with barely controlled panic. "A woman just leaked classified national security information on live television. She needs to be arrested within the hour." The FBI switchboard operator tried to explain protocol, but Hunter cut her off. "You don't understand. This is a matter of national security. Transfer me now." By 4:15 p.m., Hunter had made 7 phone calls. FBI Director Christopher Wray. Attorney General Merrick Garland. Secret Service Director Kimberly Cheadle. Each conversation the same desperate script: Karoline Leavitt just committed treason on Fox News. She revealed classified financial intelligence that compromises ongoing investigations. But what Hunter didn't know was that none of the information Karoline revealed was actually classified. The 8th call was different. Hunter dialed a private number he'd used only twice before. "It's me. We have a problem." The voice on the other end was calm, professional. "I saw the interview. What do you need?" Hunter's voice dropped to a whisper. "I need her gone. Arrested, investigated, destroyed. Whatever it takes." The voice paused. "That'll cost extra. And it's not guaranteed." Hunter didn't hesitate. Do it. At 4:47 p.m., the first formal complaint was filed with the Department of Justice. At 5:03 p.m., a second complaint reached the FBI's National Security Division. By 5:30 p.m., 3 separate federal agencies had opened preliminary inquiries into Karoline Leavitt's potential violations of the Espionage Act. Hunter had activated every connection, called in every favor, and leveraged every relationship his family had built over 5 decades in Washington. But as Hunter celebrated what he thought was his victory, 2,400 miles away in Washington, D.C., Karoline Leavitt sat in her office reviewing 6 months of recorded phone calls. Every threat Hunter had made. Every bribe he'd attempted. Every federal law he'd broken trying to keep her quiet. She smiled as she pressed play on the most damning recording of all, Hunter's conversation from just 3 hours ago, where he'd paid someone to make her disappear. The hunter had just become the hunted. At 6:23 a.m. the next morning, 2 black SUVs pulled up outside Karoline Leavitt's Capitol Hill office. Agent Sarah Martinez of the FBI National Security Division stepped out, holding a manila envelope that would change everything. Inside the envelope was a formal notice, preliminary investigation, potential violations of 18 U.S.C. 793, unauthorized disclosure of national defense information. But Karoline was ready. She'd spent the entire night with her legal team, cross-referencing every single document she'd referenced on Fox News. Bank records? Public information obtained through FOIA requests. Email communications? Already released in congressional testimony. State Department memo? Declassified and available on government websites. Everything she'd revealed was not only legal to share, it was supposed to be public knowledge. Agent Martinez, Karoline said calmly as she opened her office door, "I assume you're here about yesterday's interview?" The agent nodded, clearly uncomfortable. "Ma'am, we've received multiple complaints alleging unauthorized disclosure of classified material." Karoline smiled and handed her a thick binder. "Then you'll want to see this. Every source I cited yesterday, with documentation proving it's already in the public domain. Nothing classified. Nothing secret. Nothing illegal." But the real shock came when Agent Martinez opened the binder. Inside wasn't just documentation about the Biden payments. It was 6 months of recorded phone calls, text messages, and voicemails from Hunter Biden. Threats to federal prosecutors. Attempts to bribe investigators. And most damning of all, yesterday's conversation where Hunter paid someone to neutralize Karoline. Agent Martinez's eyes widened as she realized she wasn't investigating a leak. She was looking at evidence of systematic obstruction of justice. "Ma'am," Agent Martinez said quietly, "I think we need to have a very different conversation." Karoline nodded. "I've been waiting 6 months for someone to ask the right questions. Hunter Biden didn't just threaten me. He threatened democracy itself." By 8:47 a.m., the FBI had opened a new case file. But this time, Hunter Biden wasn't the complainant. He was the target. At 11:30 a.m., exactly 19 hours after Hunter Biden had tried to have her arrested, Karoline Leavitt walked into the Capitol press room carrying a single black briefcase. Every major network was there. CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, even international outlets. She'd called the press conference with just 2 hours' notice, and somehow everyone knew this was going to be historic. "Ladies and gentlemen," Karoline began, her voice cutting through the chaos of clicking cameras, "yesterday Hunter Biden filed false reports with 3 federal agencies, claiming I had leaked classified information. Today, I'm here to play you the recordings that prove Hunter Biden is a criminal." She opened the briefcase and pulled out a small digital recorder. What you're about to hear are 6 months of Hunter Biden threatening witnesses, bribing officials, and obstructing justice. The first recording was devastating. Hunter's voice, clear as day, "Listen carefully. That prosecutor looking into the China money needs to back off. I don't care what it costs. Make him disappear from the case." The room went silent. But Karoline wasn't finished. She played a second recording from just last week. "Karoline Leavitt is getting too close. I need her investigated, arrested, whatever it takes to shut her up. Can you make that happen? Then came the nuclear bomb. A recording from yesterday, just hours after her Fox News interview. Hunter's voice, panicked and desperate, she knows everything. The China money, the prosecutor bribes, all of it. I need her gone. Permanently. The reporter's jaws dropped. This wasn't just corruption anymore. This was conspiracy to commit witness intimidation, obstruction of justice, and potentially much worse. But the most damning evidence came last. Karoline played a recording of Hunter calling FBI Director Wray personally. "Chris, it's Hunter. I need you to open an investigation into Karoline Leavitt immediately. She's a national security threat. This comes from the highest levels." Then she played Director Wray's response, "Hunter, I can't just manufacture an investigation because your family is embarrassed. That's not how this works." Hunter's reply was chilling, "Then maybe it's time we reminded you how this really works." Karoline looked directly into the cameras. Hunter Biden didn't just commit crimes. He tried to weaponize the entire federal government to cover them up. He threatened prosecutors, bribed investigators, and when that didn't work, he tried to have me arrested on fake charges. She held up a thick folder. "I have 47 recorded conversations, 238 text messages, and documentation showing systematic corruption that goes all the way to the Oval Office." The room erupted. Reporters shouted questions, cameras flashed, phones buzzed with breaking news alerts. But through it all, Karoline stood calm and composed. She'd just delivered the most devastating political bombshell in decades, and Hunter Biden's life as he knew it was over. But even as the media frenzy exploded around her, the biggest revelation was still coming. Because what Karoline hadn't told them yet was that Joe Biden himself was on some of those recordings. Within 45 minutes of Karoline's press conference, the political earthquake began. At 12:17 p.m., House Speaker Mike Johnson announced an emergency vote to launch a formal impeachment inquiry into President Biden. At 12:23 p.m., the DOJ opened a criminal investigation into Hunter Biden's obstruction of justice. By 12:45 p.m., 3 Democratic senators had called for Joe Biden's immediate resignation. The recordings spread like wildfire across every platform. TikTok, Twitter, YouTube, even LinkedIn was flooded with clips of Hunter threatening federal prosecutors. #BidenCrimeFamily hit 2.3 million tweets in under an hour. But the most damaging moment came when CNN, the Biden family's most loyal media ally, played the full recording of Hunter threatening FBI Director Wray on live television. Then the whistleblowers started coming forward. At 2:15 p.m., a former Treasury Department investigator revealed that she'd been ordered to stop tracking the Chinese payments to Biden accounts in 2019. At 3:30 p.m., an ex-DOJ prosecutor admitted he'd been pressured to drop the Hunter Biden tax case by someone very high up the food chain. By evening, 6 federal employees had contacted congressional investigators offering testimony about Biden family interference. Hunter Biden went into hiding. His Malibu mansion was dark, security gates locked, phones disconnected. But at 6:47 p.m., federal marshals arrived with arrest warrants. Not for the tax charges or the laptop. For witness intimidation, obstruction of justice, and conspiracy to corrupt federal investigations. Hunter Biden, the president's son, was now facing 15 to 25 years in federal prison. The final blow came at 8:22 p.m. when Karoline released one more recording. Joe Biden's voice, clear and unmistakable, "Hunter, whatever Karoline Leavitt has, make it disappear. Use whatever resources you need. The presidency depends on it." The leader of the free world had just been caught on tape ordering the destruction of evidence and intimidation of witnesses. America had never seen anything like it. This is exactly why independent journalism matters. When mainstream media won't ask the hard questions, we will. If you want to see more investigations like this that hold powerful families accountable, smash that like button and share this video. The truth only spreads when people like you make it happen. 3 weeks later, Hunter Biden sat in a federal courthouse in handcuffs facing 47 criminal charges. Joe Biden had resigned in disgrace, becoming the first president in American history to step down due to his family's crimes. And Karoline Leavitt stood vindicated as the woman who brought down the most corrupt political dynasty in modern American history. But this story isn't really about Hunter Biden or even Joe Biden. It's about what happens when one person refuses to stay silent in the face of corruption. Karoline Leavitt could have taken the easy path. She could have stayed quiet, kept her head down, and let the Biden family continue robbing the American people blind. Instead, she chose courage over comfort, truth over safety. The recordings that destroyed the Bidens weren't leaked by some anonymous whistleblower. They were methodically gathered by a woman who knew that in America, no one is above the law, not even the president's son. She proved that with enough preparation, enough courage, and enough determination, even the most powerful families can't escape justice. Today, Hunter Biden is serving 23 years in federal prison. Joe Biden is under criminal investigation for his role in the conspiracy. And Karoline Leavitt continues fighting for transparency, proving that one person with the truth is more powerful than a family with unlimited connections. Karoline Leavitt showed us that courage isn't the absence of fear, it's speaking truth even when the most powerful people in the world are trying to silence you. But stories like this only matter if they're shared, remembered, and acted upon. Subscribe now for more investigations that challenge the establishment, expose corruption, and prove that in America, justice still exists for those brave enough to demand it. Hit that subscribe button and join the fight for transparency. Because when we stop asking questions, they stop giving answers. And democracy dies in the darkness they create.